We're being lied to about universal basic income. There's 3 reasons it won't work and it can't work, but they're not going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you. A few weeks ago, I created an episode about universal basic income and the benefits and the need for it. And I stand by that video. I think it's true. We're going to need a form of universal basic income or something like that because of the millions and millions of job losses we're going to experience in the United States as a result of AI, automated systems, robotics, and so forth over the next 10 years and beyond. However, since that time, I've done a tremendous amount of research, watched a whole bunch of podcasts with top-level AI entrepreneurs and business people talking about what's coming. And I'm here to tell you, they're slow rolling us and they have no intention of pushing for universal basic income. Or they'll push for it, but it's going to be a really soft, we have to have it, but we're not going to do it. And they won't say that we're not going to do it part. There's 3 big reasons why. So let's get into it. Reason number 3, we'll start with the bottom. Reason number 3 is it going to be universal? Well, who gets to qualify? If we have 30 million Americans that are unemployed in the next 10 years because of AI and another 20 million behind that because of automation and robotics that are also AI supported, is everybody going to get the same amount? I mean, if someone was making $180,000 a year and they're displaced by AI coding and they're no longer a top-level coder for Google and Microsoft, will they get a basic amount of income? Will they get the same amount as the truck driver from Mississippi who lost his job because trucks are now AI automated? Are they going to be equal? Is that going to work? Are people going to allow that? I don't know. But I don't believe that the average public person is going to say that it's fair, right, for someone to get different levels. So if someone was making 180,000 up in Seattle for Microsoft or for Google or somebody, and the truck driver was only making $24,000 a year, and they're going to get different amounts of money, is that fair? Is that reasonable? And then what about new people coming up that aren't getting jobs because of AI? They're just not hiring in any of those industries. Will they get some sort of universal basic income level, just because they say, well, I want to be a programmer, or I was in school for a programmer, but now I can't become one because it's all being done by AI? Will they get the same amount as the Google or Microsoft guy in Seattle, or will they be paid like the trucker? So is it going to be universal? Will everybody get it? How much will they get? If you're retired, but you're saying, well, I could go back to work. I'm 65, but now I want to go back to work, but I can't. Will I get an additional amount of money for that? It doesn't make sense. It's not going to be universal. And worse, it's not going to be universal across countries, right? Because these job losses aren't just coming to the US. The UN and the World Economic Forum estimates over 300 million jobs will be lost in the next 10 years due to AI automation, robotics, and so forth. Is it going to be, will you get the same amount in the US as you get in Europe or in South Africa or in Korea or Japan? Unlikely. It's not going to be universal. And it's not going to, everybody's not going to get it. Some countries won't be able to afford it. Some countries just will disagree with it. Some countries will just say, go get another job, go, plant trees or dig ditches, do something different, Mr. Microsoft guy who's making $180,000 a year. So it's not going to be universal at all. And because we're a confederation of 50 states in the United States, you're going to have different rules with different states. Unless the federal government's going to make it universal, it's going to be state. So some states like maybe Alabama, Mississippi, sorry to pick on you guys, but this is how you roll. You're just going to say, we're not doing this. We're not paying that. No way. We're not paying people to not work because of that. Not going to happen. Whereas some of those like California or Seattle, Washington, and Washington State, they might very well say, yes, we're going to guarantee this if you were a California resident when this kicked in, that kind of thing. So you're going to have this patchwork of different rules and regulations. So it's very unlikely to be universal. Well, how do we know that? Look at the way states treat workers' compensation. Look at the way states treat unemployment insurance. It's radically different and radically different amounts. Does that mean you're going to have migration from states that don't have it or have very low amounts to states with bigger amounts? Or will people go to Canada or come from Canada? There's just so many questions here. It's going to require a lot of agreement, a lot of understanding, a big regulatory framework, and it's going to require so many agreements about who gets to work and who doesn't get to work and who gets paid and who doesn't get paid that it's just not going to be functional. And this is what the AI business people are talking about. It's like, we're going to have this huge, massive negative impact, but we're not sure how to do this universal basic income. Second part, number 2, basic. Is it going to be basic? Well, what is basic? Is basic the poverty level? Is basic the amount you would get on Social Security? Are we suddenly going to put everybody on Social Security who doesn't have a job? Is basic going to be enough to pay the bills? Is basic going to include, are you going to get taxed on it? What's basic level of income, right? I mean, so you've got so many different problems with the fundamental concept of basic. We don't even know what that means. We can't even agree on the poverty level being actual poverty. So, for example, when we've got food assistance, SNAP food assistance, we've got school lunches, will those now be covered under basic income, universal basic income? What will include? Will you cover your health insurance? Because my health insurance, I'm 63, my health insurance is now more than my mortgage. And that doesn't even include the $9,200 in deductibles I have to pay before insurance is really going to kick in if I need it, right? That's outrageous. Would universal basic income, would the basic part cover my insurance? I don't think so, right? So you start adding all these things up, and what you're looking at is it's just going to be impossible for there to be a basic level of income that isn't a poverty level of income, right? So there's all these issues around this that are just not functional. They're just not possible to understand without really getting together and admitting we have a problem, which we don't want to do because we're saying, oh, it's going to be linear, it's going to be easy, there won't be that many jobs replaced. People will become centaurs, which is half horse, half human, meaning half human job, half AI job, augmented. They're going to say, well, everybody's going to learn how to use AI or become an entrepreneur. And it's just flat out not going to happen. So what do you do with tens of millions of unemployed people who need a basic income? How do they buy groceries? What does that do to the economy? I mean, you take 30 million jobs out of the economy in the next 10 years, all the consumption that happens at that level above what would be called the basic, let's just call it poverty level income. And now you've taken all these people who were making $50, $80, $100, $180,000 a year, and you slam them down to $24,000 a year or $15,000 a year in basic income. And all the things they would buy, all the places they would go, all the food they would consume, movies, Disney, trips, travel, Christmas presents, holiday presents, whatever, all those things just evaporate because there's no money for that. Your consumer economy, which the United States economy is a consumer economy, collapses. Now what? Well, that gets to the third thing. Because if your economy collapses, if all these things happen, we still have to pay for it. So number three, who's going to pay for it, right? So is it going to be universal? Is it going to be basic, poverty level or what? And then who's going to pay for it? Because who's going to pay for it is the biggest issue. We can look back all the way back into the 60s with every social program that the country has decided and voted for. The big question always becomes, who's going to pay for it? Well, if we lose 30 million to 50 million high-paying white-collar and blue-collar jobs, they go down to, let's just say, $24,000 as a universal basic income. Let's pretend the first two issues don't exist. The tax rolls are going to radically shrink. The cost of houses are going to shrink. You're going to have a real estate market collapse. You're going to have a consumption collapse. Consumption tax-based states are going to collapse their revenue base. Income-based tax states are going to have a revenue collapse. Who's going to pay all the workers' compensation? Who's going to pay all the universal basic income? Who's going to pay for the health care? It actually is going to collapse the system unless we decide as a civilization how to maybe tax the robots, right? So if you're going to remove a robot, if you're going to have a robot replace, Johnny's job at the factory, then we're going to have to tax that robot dramatically to cover the tax-based cost of paying for Johnny's universal basic income, healthcare, et cetera, because he did have a $50,000, $70,000, $80,000 nice job, and now it's gone because of the robot. How about taxing AI? Are we going to have to tax AI? How will we tax AI? By the user or by the owner of the AI? The consumer's going to, eventually the consumer will pay for it. It's like the joke about the tariffs, right? I mean, tariffs are taxes. We know this. Everybody knows it. And unless you just want to call it that, a tax by any other name is still a tax. So bottom line is, are we going to tax the AI? So are we going to tax the companies that use AI? How are we going to develop revenue to pay for all the programs that are required to keep people afloat? Healthcare, universal basic income, et cetera. Where's the money going to come from? The United States government, because of our tax policies and reducing taxes since Reagan dramatically, has almost a $40 trillion debt. $40 trillion debt. Are we going to double it, triple it, quadruple it? We're just going to print money until the cows come home? That creates inflation. We know printing money, quantitative easing, all that creates inflation. What does inflation do? makes your money worth less. So if you're stuck on universal basic income at $24,000 a year, but inflation goes through the roof and you have 10% or 15% inflation for a year because of the way the system is set up to pay for all this, then it becomes worthless money. Again, collapse. The states aren't going to pay for it because their tax revenues are going down the toilet. They're going to go way down to the bottom of the well. The federal government's not going to pay for it because the federal government doesn't have the funds and is already massively, crazily, insanely in debt. So where's the money going to come from? The trillionaires, the billionaires, the millionaires, AI, robots? Who's paying for it? So we have to have a big conversation because look, the guys on the big, expensive, high-class podcasts that are out there with all the top-level CEOs and executives and scientists talking about artificial intelligence, robotics, all this stuff, they're talking a sweet game. They're talking like, yeah, everyone's going to become an entrepreneur, AKA good luck, right? Oh, don't worry, we're going to use a universal basic income. It's going to be so much abundance. It's going to be crazy abundant for them, but not for you and me. And they're saying, don't worry, we're going to massively grow the economy. We're going to pay off all the federal debt and everything else because there's going to be so much wealth created. Again, for them, but not for you. And so what does that mean? It means that what they're planning to do is crash the economy by not paying attention to the consequences of AI robotics, automation, and everything else. And they don't have a plan for what happens when they light the fuse and the bomb to the economy goes off. They have a plan for their stock. They have a plan for their billion-dollar exits. They have a plan for the millions of dollars in revenue they're going to make. And they're going to basically eat through the economy with the AI and the automation. And the refuse will be our lives, our economics, and our political and social and emotional and personal chaos. Unless they do a better job of planning, unless we have the conversation as a civilization, as a society, at least as a country, unless we have the plan to say we have to reorient the way we think about life, the way we think about human value, about the way we think about human ethics, about what it means to be a person, have a job and an identity and a role in society, and productive work, and putting yourself to use and making things and having an impact, and all those things that make us human. If we don't do that now, it will be too late by the time they roll this out. Because again, we think often in linear terms, 7 days in a row. But if you double every day for 7 days, you end up with a wildly catastrophic different number, especially if you do it for 7 years or 10 years. That's what we're looking at. So I don't think universal basic income is going to be universal. It's not going to be basic, and you ain't getting no income. And that's where we are today, and we have to do something different. So here's my plan and what I tell the younger people who work for me and what to do. At least my best advice. My best advice right now is this, is what I'm doing for myself. I'm becoming more resilient emotionally. I'm getting in better physical fitness shape. I'm taking care of my mind with meditation and other things that I use so that I'm clearer in my thinking, more able. I'm leaning into AI. I'm learning the systems. I'm learning the tools. I'm understanding the space. I'm looking at how it's going to impact different things because I know changes that we can't yet see are coming. It's like hearing a noise in the fog. You know a truck is coming down the road, but you don't know if it's on this side of the road or that, and you're stuck in the middle. Should I step left or should I step right to avoid the truck? We don't know yet. And so the thing we need to do is to educate ourselves, watch podcasts, learn about AI, learn about what's happening, learn about the impacts in the economy, decide to reduce your economic footprint, become more resilient, get rid of debt. These are really smart things you can do right now. Consider what are my different alternative job paths going forward that might include AI, and how can I learn as much about it as I can right now? And then also, more importantly than anything else, just be appreciative for the fact that you live in a place, in a space, in a time where you can get on your mobile phone and watch the podcast, or you can listen to it on Spotify, or where you can learn about it and have this first world, if you will, experience to make your life better and make the lives of other people around the world even better. We have this time, we have this space. This isn't just a meteor that landed on the earth and destroyed everything. We have time to adapt and modify and get interested in the potential options and solutions and what it might mean. But I guess, again, the most important thing is your personal relationships, your relationship with yourself, your physicality, your spirituality, your mental and emotional, psychological health, and that of your friends and that of other people you know, and that widening circle of compassion and consideration for others. Think about the social impact. Think about your ability to make the lives of other people better by sharing this information, by helping other people learn about it, by just being a good neighbor, by doing good in the world. All the good things we do have this quantum effect. So start inside, work towards the outside, have the biggest impact you can inside and outside, and become more resilient and more positive. We live in the most incredible time in human history. There's so much opportunity despite the dark storm clouds on the horizon. We still have so much power. I say seize the day and make it yours.